For over a century, we thought we knew the story. Titanic hits an iceberg, the ship sinks, end of tragedy. But newly uncovered evidence, from undeveloped photos, mystery signals, to a diary no one was supposed to see, now suggests we were lied to. What if the real story was buried with the wreck? What if someone survived and was never meant to be found? For more than a century, the Titanic disaster has been treated like a closed case. The ship hit an iceberg, the hull split, panic followed, lifeboats left half empty, heroism and cowardice were neatly assigned. Official inquiries in 1912 told us what happened, who failed, and who deserved blame. And for decades, that version hardened into something close to myth. But here's the uncomfortable truth most documentaries rush past. Almost everything we know comes from survivor testimony collected under extreme shock, guilt, and public pressure. People were questioned days after watching friends die in freezing water. Others testified months later after newspapers had already shaped the narrative. Some altered their stories to protect reputations. Others stayed silent forever. And the physical evidence, the wreck, lay more than 12,000 feet below the surface. Unreachable, unseen, and completely silent. Even early investigators admitted inconsistencies. Officers contradicted each other, timelines didn't line up. One witness swore lifeboats were loaded calmly. Another described chaos at the exact same moment. The infamous women and children first rule was reported differently depending on which side of the ship you were on. So which version was true? Here's a fun but unsettling fact. The British and American inquiries never agreed on how long the ship stayed afloat after the collision. Not by minutes, by nearly half an hour. That alone changes everything about evacuation decisions. Another overlooked detail, several passengers claimed to see a long, dark shape on the horizon before the impact. Others denied any warning at all. Ice warnings were sent, some were ignored, some may never have reached the bridge. According to later historians, at least 6 wireless messages vanished from official records. And then there's the theory that refuses to die, that the damage was not a single clean gash, but a series of smaller ruptures worsened by brittle steel. Metallurgical studies decades later showed Titanic's rivets contained unusually high slag content. Was the ship doomed the moment she scraped the iceberg, or was the disaster compounded by design flaws no one wanted to admit?
For weeks after the discovery, the recovery team didn't even realize what they had. A sealed leather-bound camera case retrieved from the wreck was logged, photographed, and sent off for imaging. It wasn't until a restoration specialist noticed the faint curling initials pressed into the aged leather that everything changed. BG. 2 letters, easy to overlook, but cross-referenced with the Titanic's manifest, only one name matched both the initials and the location where the object was found. Benjamin Guggenheim, the American mining tycoon, famously dressed in evening wear as the ship went down, calmly helping women into lifeboats before declaring he was prepared to go down like a gentleman. So how did his personal camera, a Kodak Brownie of all things, survive a fall into the cold, high-press, bacterial-laced seabed? The answer might lie in what surrounded it. When ROV-3 captured the first high-resolution scans of the object, specialists noticed something odd. The camera was nested inside a collapsed portion of wall near what used to be the first-class promenade deck, but partially buried in a thick layer of microsilt, almost like it had been tucked away. Experts theorized that during the final structural breakup, the camera may have been caught in a sort of pocket, a vacuum-sealed crevice that shielded it from corrosive saltwater and oxygen exposure, a tiny underwater time capsule. But it gets even stranger. Chemical analysis of the leather casing revealed traces of tannic acid and silver nitrate, likely from treatment Guggenheim had personally commissioned for aesthetic purposes. These same compounds under deep-sea conditions created a bioresistant shell that inhibited microbial decay, meaning the casing may have played an accidental role in preserving not just the camera, but the images inside. And when they scanned the internal film roll, the development team found 10 full exposures, not blank frames, not chemical noise, actual shadow-preserved negatives. And one frame, just one, showed what appeared to be a blurred, towering structure on the horizon seconds before the collision.
Among the strangest and least explained anomalies in the Titanic disaster is something that's rarely talked about outside specialist circles: the mystery of Lifeboat A. When RMS Carpathia arrived to rescue survivors in the freezing dawn light, its crew counted and logged every lifeboat they recovered. All but one had survivors aboard. All but one had some official documentation, except Lifeboat A. It was found adrift, partially flooded, with 3 frozen bodies and no signs of how it got there. No oars, no light, and no known launch record from the night before, just drifting, as if it had been cut loose or abandoned. The standard explanation? Chaos. Lifeboat A was likely launched late, got swamped at the davits, and some survivors tried to cling to it in the water. But there's a problem. No single eyewitness report matches what rescuers found. No one claimed to have been there when Lifeboat A was launched, and no crew member was officially assigned to it. And here's where things get even weirder. Among the 3 corpses recovered was a man wearing a steward's jacket, but the garment had no identifying tag or number, something that was standard White Star protocol. When a Titanic steward was on duty, their coat bore a sewn-in ID marker. This one was blank. Even more puzzling, one of the bodies was photographed before burial at sea, and years later, digital image enhancement suggested something eerie: a blurred object still clutched in the man's left hand. Analysts who studied the photo believe it could have been a small hand-crank camera, consistent with passenger use in that era, but the object was never logged. It vanished before anyone could examine it further. Some believe that Lifeboat A may have left the ship before the official evacuation began, launched prematurely, and quietly disappeared into the dark, either by order or mistake. Others whisper of a cover-up, that someone high-ranking fled early, that this boat held secrets no one wanted exposed. But here's what matters most. No recovered photo ever showed Lifeboat A. Until now.
It sounds impossible at first. A fire on the Titanic before it struck the iceberg. And yet, evidence has been hiding in plain sight for years, buried in photographs, overlooked in crew testimony, and now reignited by the newly recovered camera images. Here's the core of the theory. Titanic set sail from Southampton already on fire deep within one of her coal bunkers. Not a raging blaze, but a smoldering fire that had reportedly been burning for days. Several crew members testified to this during the original inquiries, but their accounts were quickly downplayed. It was labeled common on coal-powered ships, nothing to worry about, just bad luck. But recent high-resolution scans of the starboard hull, including from expeditions in 2010 and 2017, revealed a long vertical black streak directly beneath where the iceberg made contact. Metallurgists and fire investigators now believe this mark is consistent with a localized coal fire burning hot enough to weaken the steel bulkhead behind it. So, what does that mean? It means the ship may have been structurally compromised before the collision, that the very section where the iceberg struck, compartment 6, may have fractured more easily due to heat-damaged metal. This isn't just speculation. A 2017 documentary by journalist Sinan Maloney argued that the fire could have weakened the hull by up to 70% in that area. The footage was reviewed by multiple materials experts, and it changed how many saw the disaster. Now here's where it connects to the Guggenheim camera. According to a leaked report from the restoration team, one of the recovered images appears to show a faint, darkened area on the starboard side hull, visible from the deck near dusk on April 14th. If verified, this would be the first onboard photo ever taken that hints at external fire damage before the iceberg impact. It suggests some passengers may have seen it and never realized what they were looking at. And 1,500 people, their lives would have been saved, and then a boat could have gotten there and rescued people.